Hello everyone, this is actually the first official episode of Heritage Mezcal, and I am doing this with my friend Cesar, whose last name I actually do not know. So Cesar, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I'm Cesar from Mexico City. I work with fermentations, mostly with microbial communities. So I basically identify microbial communities in fermented beverages, mostly in traditional fermented beverages, no distilled.
And you can imagine that the first time I met him, it was drinking pulque, and it was a grandiose experience. You actually came, and the first thing you had, we were with another good friend, Ian Berger, who is a farmer up there in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I remember you were walking to us with your backpack, and then even before quite saying hi, you took something out of that bag. What was that you took down?
Oh, yeah. I have like my small batch of pulque in my house. Like, I was trying to identify the how people inoculated the pulque. So I just have my inoculum of pulque, my microbial communities there. And I just add like constantly agua miel, that is the sap of agaves. And then I made just myself my own pulque. So
custom pulque by Cesar.
Exactly. yeah. And it's great. I mean, it's not that alcoholic, but it's mostly like really fresh and it's sparkling. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was the champagne of pulque.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
great because the pulque we had in Coyoacán, I mean, we had...
it was terrible, dude. It was terrible. I mean, you dropped 1 liter of pulque there.
Yeah, into the drain, which honestly, I historically will feel very bad about doing that. But it was a coconut-infused pulque that just tasted like cheese. It was bad.
It was super bad, yeah. It was with a lot of funky flavors.
Yeah, and not funky in the good way. They're like funky in the very...
Like in the rotten way.
I'm gonna feel sick after this.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, we sat in the middle of the plaza of Coyoacán with huge styrofoam cups, and we started talking about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about something with you that I just recently made an interview with the guys of Campanilla.
Oh, cool.
And it was Colonche.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain what the hell is Colonche? Because even after the interview, I'm not super clear about it.
Oh, cool. Well, Colonche is like, basically it's the name of a traditional fermented beverage in Mexico that is produced mainly by the fermentation of the cactus prickly pear fruits, or mostly known in Mexico as tunas.
Not the fish.
not the fish.
Very important to know that.
And they it's produced in this region of the Bajío, which comprises the states of part of Guadalajara, part of Guanajuato, San Luis Potosí, and Zacatecas, and it's just the fermentation of cactus prickly pears, but mainly by the Opuntia streptacantha that is called the nopal cardón. But also there's other regions like in Hidalgo, they produce Colonche, and also in Tehuacan Valley they used to produce Colonche, but it's with different cacti species, but mostly is the fermented beverage with cacti species.
And
fruits.
I mean, something that I love about this is like sometimes I think us like mezcal centric or agave centric kids, we think of agave as being the provider of all the alcohol beverages in every region, right? We think about pulque, we think tequila, we think mezcal, but then sort of these other more obscure fruits or sources of sugar get forgotten. And
totally.
I have never even tried to Colonche. It's hard to get, no? Like it's hard to find someone that sells it.
Yeah, I mean it's complicated to have it because it's seasonal. Like it's not like all year long that you can have it. I mean, you just have it from July to probably November, and that's it. But also there's like a lot of differences in the Colonches from regions because people. I mean, fermentation is a creative process. So people.
Wait. Fermentation is a creative process. Thank you very much for saying that. You touched my heart. We haven't cheered for this episode.
Oh, yeah, we haven't.
I have to cheer for that. Fermentation is a creative process.
It is.
I'm going to serve you some Inaquidens distilled with naranja, with oranges from Rio de Parras. Yes, man. So let me...
That's mine.
I might mess up the recording, but... Yeah, I served you quite a bit, but...
That's okay. I mean... I'm more fluent with alcohol in my veins.
Yeah, I mean, and it's definitely past noon, right?
Totally. Somewhere else. Probably in China or Japan. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Yeah. So as I was telling you, like fermentation is a really creative process. So people there produce different kind of Colonche. Like there is no one like absolutely Colonche. So they can change the fruits that they're adding. I mean, they can use like the white cactus prickly pear fruits, but also like they add also these red colored fruits because they're gonna add like another complexity of visual aids in order to the fermentation. But also it changes of depending on the fruits that they use. Like the Cardona, it's like a really nice fruit because they have a lot of sugars and the fermentation is really good. But they can also boil these tunas or cactus prickly pear fruits in order to have different flavors and aromas in the product. And the inoculum, they're gonna store it for years, or if they are not gonna store this inocula,
well, but inoculum, what are you referring to? It's like the mother sort of
like a sourdough. Yeah, like they store like they ferment it once in, like, if you're gonna start the Colonche this year, you're gonna have this inocula for the last batch from the last year. So
how do you keep it alive for a whole year?
That's interesting because they store it like a bolis. Have you ever like?
No way! Like bonais.
Totally like that.
Roy, I want some bonais shouting into this.
Yeah. So they store it like they can keep it like a bolis, or they can put it in like an old plastic bottles. They store it there. I mean,
frozen. So
frozen.
Yeah, I mean, for people that don't know about bonais, it's just like these sort of like ice bars that they sell all around Mexico.
Exactly.
And when you're about to collapse from the heat, you have that, and it's just a shot of sugar, and it's wonderful.
Exactly. And they store it in that way, like they put it in that way sometimes. Wow. So it also varies by region because they store it in this way, and then they add it again to the clay pot where they're gonna start a fermentation of the Colonche. But also, so this is the differences are like they can boil the cactus prickly pear fruits and they can produce like a juice or something like really thick, but it's all sugars. And then they add this inocula, or they can add pulque in order to start a fermentation. But it's not so much pulque because there might be a misconfounding idea that this pulque rojo that is not...
That it's a curado.
Exactly.
And this is not a curado. Curado being the pulques where they add fruits.
Yeah.
This is really pulque just as a starter.
Exactly. Totally. Just like that. I
mean, that's still pretty interesting to think about mixtos, like to think about this like usage of different, of agave and fruits to make one beverage, and that they collaborate in order to get to the alcoholic dream.
Totally. And it happens also for the, I saw another product produced in the same way in Tehuacan Valley that is called Tolonche, and then they fermented the pirul seeds.
No way.
The pink pepper tree.
Yeah. I was trying that all over the place. You have a bunch of pirules with this beautiful pink pepper that explodes
super
on your
tasty.
Mouth. Yes, because it's not aggressive. It's full of flavor, but it's not like I guess what you're imagining that it's going to destroy your mouth. No. It's just nice and expansive, but elegant.
Yeah, totally. Like really like woody flavors.
Yes.
So people there in Tehuacan Valley also add pulque in order to ferment the pepper, those fruits of the pirul that is called the pepper.
Like pink pepper.
Pink pepper
we
tree.
Can say it's pink pepper,
pulque also works as inoculum for many beverages here in Mexico. So I think that's pretty interesting too.
Absolutely, because then what you're saying is absent agave, we will probably lose a bunch of these other fermented drinks.
Exactly.
So it's a chain. It's a system that if one is not there,
the other ones are gonna disappear like in a cascade of problems.
I mean, I love that because then you cannot. I mean, this is an argument to say biodiversity or healthy ecosystems is not only because we're purists about it, right? It's not only about, I mean, we all want to save the earth, yes, given, but we also want access to delicious stuff.
Totally.
So without biodiversity, you don't have delicious stuff.
Totally agree with that.
Jeez. And do you have a favorite Colonche? Has there been a Colonche that, and am I pronouncing it right too? It's Colonche or Tolonche?
Oh, that's super interesting because
okay.
Colonche is the one that is produced with cactus prickly pear fruits. That it's with C, Colonche, and the one with T, it's the one that Tolonche is the production of the fermentation of the small
pink pepper. Jeez, like we need to do a tasting about this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have a tasting in Guanajuato soon.
Oh please, yes. Do the commercial. Do the commercial.
So we're organizing a festival that is called Colonche. It's gonna be the 7th year that we're gonna have this festival, and we're gonna have like a tasting.
You have products of different Colonches, different Tolonches, maybe.
Yeah, totally. And we're gonna have like a small tour in the locality. So we're gonna trying to provide people to say like we need to. I mean, if we want to conserve these beverages, we also need to conserve the resources where these products are produced, like the nopaleras.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we have a special place there that we found a small cooking pit of
agave, like an agave cooking pit.
Yeah,
like the
from Chichimecas.
No way. So I was just reading an article about this. Yeah. How like there's all this discussion was distillation pre-Hispanic, wasn't in. Forget about that. Yeah. For 2,000 years at least, people of the Americas have been cooking agave and converting those complex sugars into eatable products. So you found one of those pits.
Yeah, in the locality. So we were there and we're trying to say like this beverage was related to the old people here, like the Chichimecas, and it was like the base of beverage because water wasn't available for that times. So I mean, as water wasn't available, the thing that they consumed was and safety was Colonche.
I mean, like lucky kids, honestly.
Totally.
We are here drinking like water takes like chlorine. Yeah, it's just horrific. Every time I drink natural water, like quote unquote natural water, like this is disgusting. Yeah, like just the filtration and all the chemicals. The one in here is just like. Totally. I guess I'll drink it because it's good for me. But yeah, those guys were living the good life. Yeah.
Totally. They were having fun.
Yeah. So you're making this festival, 7th year.
Yeah, it's going to be on September 1st and I think it's going to be September 2 and September 3. The first weekend of September, it's going to be in Laguna de Guadalupe in Guanajuato.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's it.
Cool. So I hope that this episode sees the light of day before that happens. Yeah. If not, in my very active social media, I'll be sure to post that.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And I mean, is there anything else about Colonche that you find? I mean, given your area of work, that you find like have you find any like crazy yeast that only happen in that environment, any crazy bacteria that only happens there?
Yeah, I mean, we have isolated some yeast and bacteria, but I don't think that they are like pretty different from the other fermented beverages. But I think that the funny thing that probably the thing that blew my mind is like they store They take care of the clay pots where the fermentation occurs like as another member of the family.
No way.
Like, I mean, it's super interesting because I have made I took some samples of the clay pot inside the clay pot and I identify like all the microbial community that is it's gonna start the fermentation of the Colonche is there. Like they know that something that gives life and this sparkles or boiling thing in the fermentation is there in the clay pot. So they they take care of the clay pot as something that is alive.
It is alive.
It is.
I mean, like, there's not even a question. Like, yes,
it is. And I think this happens also in in different mezcal fermentations. But yeah, I mean, with Colonche, it was like super interesting, like how they take care of these clay pots, because they don't use a soap or other chemical thing that probably affects the flavors.
So even cleaning has its own very specific way.
Totally, just with water. Yeah, mostly, but yeah, that's a thing. I think that was like pretty interesting, and because of that, I started my I'm gonna start a postdoc here in Mexico City, and we're trying to identify like how the traditional knowledge of people that doesn't know how a microbial community looks like, how they manage that. How you manage something that you cannot see.
Faith. That's what we're a Catholic country.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Like, makes total sense. Like, yeah.
It's totally fate. But also there's like small things that they recognize by flavors or aromas. So we are identifying like which aromas or others are related to like. We asked like the people like, you know how it's when it's time to stop the fermentation, and they told me, yeah, when it smells like that, or when they have these different bubbles in the fermentation vats. So that's that interesting thing that Colonche gave me like how you manage something that is invisible.
I mean, and this I think is the conclusion for me. Just to finish this podcast in a very agile fashion, it's really coming back to your comment of fermentation as a creative process.
It is.
I even think that sometimes when people use this term wild fermentation, it sort of takes away from all the knowledge and all the decisions that the people are making, right? It's almost like it just happens. And you're like, no, these people are taking a bunch of cues. They're really understanding what's happening there, even if they can't say it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, wild fermentation is something that it's probably an European thing or probably American or something.
Well, they're calling us savages. It's like,
exactly.
They're calling us like, those kids, they don't have the right machinery.
Totally, but I don't think that it's completely wild, because just to finish this idea, when fermentation occurs in Colonche, like they are pretty aware that if they put it in a hot place, they're going to have an optimum fermentation yield, because temperature is going to be quite good for the microbes there. So they don't know that the microbes are there, but they just know that if the temperature is okay, they're going to have a good yield for fermentation.
I love that. I think that this is a great conclusion for this first episode. Cesar, you did not say your last name though.
Ojeda.
Ojeda. Is there any way in which people can find you over the internet?
I have an Instagram that it's called the Intergalactic Yeast Boy.
Yes.
You can find me on an email. I don't know if you can put it on your page.
I'll do a little profile. I'll put your data. I think a lot of people starting mezcal brands, starting mezcal projects or tequila projects, I think they will have a lot of fun talking to you, and maybe you can help them out finding some pretty yeast.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Nos vemos, vato.
Gracias, chava.
All right. Okay, first one in the bag. This was Heritage Mezcal, the podcast about all things agave that delves into all sorts of mysterious things. Your host is Chava Periban, me myself, and I tend to invite people that have tremendous amounts of love for what they do. All the sounds and music are made by Ros Sierra, and we record out of his beautiful studio in Mexico City. Toda la suerte. See you pretty soon.